Okay, hello. One of you asked me to read about Ashley Loring Heavyrunner. This is an Indigenous woman who disappeared in 2017. She was only 20 years old, and she's a very cute girl. I have her picture up on my computer. I'm looking at her right now. Sad situation is that she did get into drugs, it sounds like, and was spending time with people that she shouldn't really have been spending time with. So there are a couple men that are implicated in a possible connection to her disappearance. We know she was with one for sure, and he admits it. The other one, I'm not 100% sure if he admits he was with her. I think they're trying to use an alibi as he was out of state. So we're just going to read the cards and see what comes through with that. If she was with either of these men, we're going to ask our usuals, what happened to her. We're going to ask the normal accident, suicide, foul play type situation. I did throw in just drug overdose in there, only because we know she was, it sounds like, involved in possible meth. And sometimes, unfortunately, that is what happens, is that people overdose and then someone freaks out and feels like they have to hide the body. I'm not saying that's what happened here. I really don't know. But I know in other cases that I've read on that's been the case. So we're going to ask that as well. So thank you, whichever one of you it was who sent me information on Ashley. And I will just go ahead and get started reading on her. Let's see if I can keep that maybe open there. I don't know. It doesn't want to stay. There were a few things that were found that they think were hers, a sweater, some boots. So I'm going to ask that too, because it sounds like they gave them to the police, maybe the FBI, to be tested, and they haven't been yet, as far as I know. This, maybe the information I found was old. I don't know, but we're going to ask about that stuff. Okay, so let me take a second to focus on Ashley here. Like I said, I've got her picture up in front of me. Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner. And we'll just ask that the truth come through, that I be a conduit of the truth, that the truth not be from my logic and myself, but that the powers beyond work through me to bring the truth to this situation. All right, and we're going to ask about foul play first, because that seems to be what maybe her family is suspecting, and what a lot of people are suspecting. They think these guys may have had something to do with her. I guess there's some really horrific stories about her being tied to a tree and someone letting animals eat her. I mean, it just sounds terrible. This is a woman, the star, and this is a man, and this man has a lot of land. I do feel like her disappearance is connected to a man. I'm not necessarily seeing foul play, but I do feel like this may have been a man she was having relations with. That's kind of what I'm getting with that. So we're going to read a little bit more and see about, did she leave on her own? That does happen sometimes. I really don't think it happened in this case, but we're just going to ask about Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner, disappearing on her own. Ashley disappearing on her own. Well, again, I feel like I have two cards. This is a family card, and this is a decision card. So the family card, I do feel like she was tied to her family. I do feel like that was a decision that she contemplated, to be honest with you. I'm not convinced that it was a decision like, I'm going to leave and disappear. I feel more along the lines of thinking about the future and maybe wanting to leave where she was at that time. Like a lot of people want to leave their hometown, that sort of thing. I don't think she left on her own. I don't feel like she would have, because she was so tied to that situation with where her family was. Although I do see that it was something that she almost longed for. That's what I'm saying. Something she probably even talked to her family about. Let's see if it's a suicide. Unfortunately, that does happen, and I do have to ask. Let's see about it being a suicide. I don't think it was a suicide. I do feel like this is the Page of Pentacles, and this is a card showing a person very engrossed in something, right? And I do feel at this point that it possibly could have been drug related, because I'm getting this almost fixation, you see, on this thing, and wanting it and looking at it. And I've gotten that card before for drug involvement. So we'll continue. Not a suicide from what I can see. Let's talk about an accident. Let me just focus on accident for a second with Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner. Tell me about this being an accident. An accident with Ashley. I do think there was some kind of conflict at some point, probably with one of these men, to be honest with you. And then I feel like there was choices. And so this card we often get, I'm leaning towards more drugs. Just because I get this card with people sometimes when they choose to drink and drive, it's about making a choice, and maybe that choice was not the best choice for you in the moment, right? Some of these cups look like they have great things in them, and the cups all look pretty, but if you look closer, you know, some have a snake in them, or this one, you don't quite know what's under that, the little cloth there. One has jewels. One looks like you're getting something great because this is the wreath of success, but it also has a skull on the cup. So, you know, it's like one of those, it might look good in the moment, but you don't quite know what you're getting. And that's why I'm leaning more towards this potentially being drugs. Natural causes. It can happen even to a 20-year-old. Natural causes. You know, you do hear every once in a while someone just out of the blue having a heart attack, maybe a genetic disorder, that sort of thing. And, you know, you would think, well, you would hear about it if it was natural causes, right? In this situation, I don't think it was natural causes. This may be alluding to her still being on reservation property, to be honest with you. If she lived on the reservation, I think she was part of Blackfeet Nations, wherever that area is. And then overdose. Let's talk about an overdose. Because that's kind of where, with the cards that I'm seeing, I'm leaning. Overdose. Even I'm going back to this card, and like the girl who kind of is the star in the moment. Unfortunately, she's not dressed. And this man, remember we talked about the pentacle and this man having the pentacle. This man being the older man, the king, and having lots of pentacles. And then, fortunately, in this situation, I think those pentacles were drugs. And she was going to, as we know, to people for drugs. So, tell me about an overdose with Ashley. Yeah, see, that's the way I'm feeling, and that's the 3 of Swords. So I do feel like that is what unfortunately happened. 3 of Swords is, you know, a card of sadness, of loss, of, you know, pain, things happening that aren't good. Was the sweater hers? There was a sweater that was found. People thought it might have been hers. Was that sweater hers? Tell us about that sweater being hers. Tell us about that sweater being hers. This is a person who is extremely anxious, blindfolded, can't quite see, can't quite move. I do feel like that kind of was maybe her situation. I'm not saying she was tied up like this person. I just feel like the anxiety, I think drugs calmed her. And without him, I think she really had trouble. She was really addicted, I think, from here, from what I'm feeling. And tied to that. This isn't necessarily telling me the sweater was hers. Not quite getting that, so I'm not sure about it. It's telling me more about her situation than anything. I don't know that the sweater was hers. We'll ask about the boots. Boots being Ashley's, because they did find a sweater and boots, and both of them I guess were similar to what she was wearing that day. Tell me about the boots being Ashley's. Interesting. These are two swords. One is the Knight of Swords of somebody rushing in, and one is the King of Swords of somebody in charge. So looking at these cards together, I have the Eight of Swords, the Knight of Swords, and the King of Swords. I think there was this, for lack of a better word, in that Eight of Swords, I feel like your brain, this one, is really getting the best of you with your, you can't even think of anything else, right? Because in this card, it's like anxiety, and you have, to me, it's like you have to have more. I think this King of Swords, which we believe is older gentleman because we have him as King of Pentacles, he gave her things that would help that situation, right? Because, and why I'm saying that is because we've got the Knight of Swords coming through and kind of slashing that anxiety away. This is telling me really more about what happened to her, and not going into the boots or the sweater. It really is telling me this man, I feel like, gave her something, make her feel better, what she felt she needed. I think he was behind it. I'm not convinced the clothes are hers from what I'm seeing, to be honest with you. I didn't get a hard no either. There's some weird story about a woman was running from a vehicle on Route 89. I'm just going to ask about, was that Ashley? So it's about a woman running from a vehicle on Route 89 being Ashley. I don't know if that was the same place where she supposedly was dropped off from one man to meet the other. I don't think it was her. This shows me nothing that would make me think a woman running from a vehicle. If anything, I see she met a friend or was with a friend, which is what we kind of already know. She was probably with one of these guys. We're going to ask directly about this Sam McDonald now, because there's one of two men she was with and when these things happened. And it looks to me, honestly, like she overdosed. Somebody gave her too much. Sam McDonald. Sam McDonald. Was he the one that was with Ashley behind her disappearance? Was Sam McDonald behind Ashley's disappearance? Yeah, that's what the card seemed to be saying, because this is a person that is not doing good to others, and we've got more swords here. Remember, we've got the Eight of Swords, the Knight of Swords, the King of Swords, and I saw that person giving someone things that they felt they needed. Well, now we have somebody who's done things with swords and actually harmed other people. I'm leaning honestly towards this Sam McDonald. We're going to ask about this Paul. It is possible she saw one who did things that in the end harmed her, and then another that possibly harmed her, but I'm definitely leaning towards a situation with Sam McDonald. Tell me about V-Dog, Paul Valenzuela. Paul Valenzuela, also known as V-Dog. Tell me about his involvement in Ashley's disappearance. Because people were, there's something about his wife maybe being involved too. It just goes on and on and on. It's quite the soap opera. V-Dog and Ashley's disappearance. This card is the being found, but it's going to take a while. I don't think it was necessarily this V-Dog guy. The cards are kind of pointing to Sam McDonald, to be honest with you. This case, I think is going to be cracked, but it's going to be a while. We've got the sword again, so I'm going back to all this sword situation, which seemed to be tied to Sam McDonald. We're going to ask about this T, who was Paul Venezuela's wife, if she had involvement. So tell us about T's involvement with this. T, the wife of, ex-wife or something of Paul Venezuela. Did she have something to do with Ashley's disappearance? Did T have something to do with Ashley's disappearance? This is somebody being like protective of their own, and which I suppose she was, because at that time I think this guy was her husband. And the Knight of Wands is rushing in kind of foolishly. There's a protecting and a rushing in sense here that I question it. Let me ask a little bit more about this T person and her involvement in this. I think she maybe knew a little bit more about Ashley than people thought. Tell me about this T person and her involvement. Well, this is the Magician, which hides things, and this is the Tower, which makes things happen suddenly. It's a card of calamity. It's not a good card. I do question the involvement of this T person as well. It's kind of messy here with this guy giving her weight too much, kind of harming her. And then we've got this whole T situation of rushing in and hiding the calamity. All right, we're going to ask if that V-Dog really picked Ashley up, because what was supposed to happen was this McDonald guy supposedly dropped Ashley off to be picked up by this V-Dog guy, but he stayed in the car and fell asleep, the McDonald guy. And when he woke up, Ashley was gone. So let's ask about, did V-Dog really pick her up? Sounds like a story and not even a good one. Did this V-Dog guy really pick her up? That's like making a decision blindly without knowing the facts. I don't know that he did. I'm just going to ask for clarity on that card. Tell me about this V-Dog guy. Was he with Ashley that day? Let's just ask that. Was the V-Dog guy with Ashley that day? I mean, this is the Moon, and that is a card of worry and, you know, being very scared. And then there's the Justice card, which is then, you know, justice coming through. This is a weird reading. I'm just going to be honest, because there seems to be an implication of the Sam person and his giving drugs that harmed. I'll just say that. Then there seems to be some sort of situation with this T person. And this Paul guy being all nervous that justice will be served. Let me ask what happened. I'm just going to go a different angle and just ask what happened here, because it looks like ultimately there may have been involvement with multiple people in what they did that day. Meaning, I see her involvement as someone who did what looks like too many drugs. I see McDonald's involvement as someone who gave her what appears to be too many drugs. I see T involvement, someone who is rushing in, hiding things, and potentially this making decisions blindly of this anxiety, which may mean It's my logical mind. Logical mind. This guy gave her, okay, first of all, she took too many drugs. This guy gave her too many drugs. The McDonald, maybe she did meet up with this Paul guy, but possibly had an overdose and was hidden. The tea helped him hide her even. Or it was all tea. And Paul is worried about getting blamed. Let's just ask what happened. This is messy. About what happened here. Okay. Well, this is like someone's nightmares coming true. There's arguing down here in this corner, if you look. I kind of am going with, did T find out about this? I kind of am. Let me ask a little bit more about that. Somebody said she was in Seattle. So if she was in Seattle, that meant Paul could have picked her up, and in which I don't know how she would be involved, but it's almost like involved in the hiding. So, okay, we've got a lot of anxiety, and we knew that because we felt that before. So then we're going to pull these two. And this is the Ace of Cups and the Queen of Wands. And I do feel like it's a woman seeing things, watching things, knowing things. Does make me wonder what's going on here. Does make me wonder the involvement of this T person. Watching things and knowing things. I'm not sure if she was directly involved or if she was just involved in kind of hiding, covering things up. Let's just ask that. I'm going to pull a card for T being directly involved in her death. I actually think, honestly, the person directly involved in her death was Ashley. I know people don't want to hear that, but I think she took too many drugs. T involvement in her death, but that's my thought. Okay, so this is that the truth lies with the king. Okay, and we saw the king before in the King of Pentacles as the McDonald guy, and we saw the truth with that whole giving her drugs, King of Swords. And now we've got a woman saying the truth lies with the king, McDonald. I am going back to the McDonald guy. For the involvement in her murder, I feel like more it was the McDonald guy. If anything, maybe she did go with Paul and T helped cover it up. I think the ultimate person who gave her things and involved in her passing was more of this McDonald guy. The others may have had something to do with covering it up. That's what I'm saying. Let me ask about Paul again. Tell me about Paul. Paul's involvement in her murder, because it looks like they're going back to McDonald or man. Paul's involvement in her murder. Tell me about Paul's involvement in the murder of Ashley. I don't even know if it was a murder. I think she died. He's really defensive, Paul, and trying to play innocent, like he really didn't have much to do with her at all. But it also feels like maybe he didn't have anything to do with this, really. And I say that because, if anything, it feels like things happened and maybe T may have helped him even cover it up. I feel like he's really worried about it, about being implicated in it. But more so, people aren't going to want to hear the truth. But what I'm seeing as the truth is that she got into drugs too deep, did too many drugs, and I think it was more taking drugs, being given drugs. So yes, someone else was involved in that, which goes back to McDonald, from what I can see. But maybe this T person and Paul might have had something to do with covering it up, not wanting to be thought of as connected to it, and just trying to hide the situation. Let me ask where she can be found. Where can Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner, be found? Honestly, it looks more like an overdose than anything to me. Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner. Where can she be found? I think she will be found. This is a card of victory. It looks like a good card. So let me ask more about that, because we got something that led me to believe earlier she'd be found too. Ace of Swords. It's been a few years, so tell me about where she can be found. Ashley Loring. Some landmarks, some things that look like pointed out. We're going to ask for the closest known landmark in a minute here. Tell me more about where she can be found. It's just this card right here. So that is outdoors, dry. I think they're in Montana. I saw a video on it. Looked pretty dry around there. They are outdoors. I think keep searching outdoors. That's what I see. Let's ask about the closest known landmark. Closest known landmark. Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner. Closest known landmark. Tell me about the closest known landmark. So we have death, which is an interesting one, as a closest known landmark. And then we have, I don't know if there's things like called death, like in California, there's Death Valley or cemeteries. And then we have a Knight of Cups where like somebody goes to possibly visit. I'd look for something with death in its name. There's also two horses on these cards. Death and the Knight of Cups both have horses in them, which I'm just saying is a parallel, and two people riding their horses going forward. I think there's a meaning in that as well. I don't know the landmarks there. Someone else may look at this and it reminds them of a landmark, but they are very similar cards. They both have a flag. This guy kind of does, this guy kind of does. They both are riding horses. They both are moving forward. I would just say maybe that means something to someone, being that I don't know the landmarks around there. So I'll just leave that with you. We'll ask about advice to searchers. Advice to searchers before we go. Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner, I do see that she's going to be found. Advice to searchers. She's going to be one of the rare ones that is. Advice to searchers. Ashley Loring, Heavyrunner. Yeah. So what this is showing me is drugs. Drugs. I mean, this is an addiction card, and I did feel like that had to do with it. Look where she went for her addiction. I think that's what they're telling you. Who she was chained to for fulfilling that addiction, which we saw in that Eight of Swords card when she felt very nervous and in need of help and a fix. Really, this said a fix to me for whatever reason today. And look at the person who was supplying her drugs, because that, I think, has a lot to do with her death, although I think her death was an overdose. I don't think the person intentionally tried to kill her, but was careless from what I'm seeing. And it was like something she wanted more and more of as well. So something he supplied that she really wanted, but in the end it had this effect. Did she overdose with Sam McDonald, or did she take a lot of drugs and then had so much in her system already and may have met up with this Paul, although I didn't necessarily see that. I saw something with T trying to help cover things up though. So with that said, it just feels like she overdosed and people hit her body, if you want my truth. That's what I feel. That's what I feel. She overdosed and people hit her body. Unfortunately, McDonald gave her way too much. But it was what she, in the moment, wanted. Okay, I wish I had better news. I hope that closest known landmark means something to someone out there, because I get that she's outside, and maybe that death card and the Knight of Cups have something in them that will guide somebody to her. All right, that's it for Ashley Loring Heavyrunner. Take care.